Hello, everybody. Welcome to Charm City Sideline. I'm Zach. This is Brad with me this way. And today we are previewing free agency. It starts next week, Monday, I think at a weird time, but I'm so excited for it. It feels like a big one for this team. You come up short last year. This is a big step up, whether it is just the start of the offseason or not. It feels like we're getting to a new year. We're getting over the stupid playoff slump. Brad, how are you feeling about free agency?
I'm feeling really excited. Every year, once it finally gets to March, you sort of start to get over the annual playoff loss, and you're able to get excited about free agency and the draft coming up. I've been starting to do some draft stuff, which is really exciting. And free agency starts Monday at like noon or something like that, and we already have some trades swirling. Debo to the Commanders, Christian Kirk today, as you let me know, to the Texans. Some interesting stuff going on and a lot of things heating up. Got a lot of Ronnie Stanley news, which we're going to get into. A lot of rumors circulating around. So very exciting. And, I'd say free agency week is definitely one of my favorite times of the year. We're sort of getting into March Madness territory too.
Ooh,
So,
yep.
we're out of the dead of the no sports of February. So pretty cool time starting up here.
Yeah, usually like the end of football season gets me ready for basketball season. So this is like a totally different, again, it's another 180. Oh yeah, football, time to be entertained by whatever crap
Mhm.
happens by the offseason. And just a few things from the last time that we did one of like the position previews, we talked
Yeah.
about wide receivers and edge and O-line. You can watch all of those. But I think the biggest one that changed since we did that was wide receivers. Like the wide
Yeah.
receiver market just kind of exploded a little bit more as in it's already crazy, but now it's like, oh yeah, DK Metcalf gets thrown in there,
Mhm.
Devontae Adams gets released. It feels like the Ravens were kind of probably monitoring it, but now it feels like, who are they going to get? Who like they need to
Yeah.
add someone. Is there anyone off like the dome for you that you want to target, or maybe you think that they're going to get?
Wide receivers really interesting.
Mhm.
The DK stuff yesterday, sort of, a little unexpected. Um, I remember in 2022, Lamar was sort of tweeting at DK when that Photoshop came out
Yes.
of him in a Ravens uniform. That would be cool. EDC was talking in an interview at the Senior Bowl, I think it was, with Todd McShay, talking about he's never been able to find an X receiver. So that's sort of one thing that's,
Wow.
maybe Ravens getting DK. But, someone that I was thinking about today, I almost texted you and Dawson about it, but I didn't know if you guys are going to make fun of me or not. I think Amari Cooper would be a very interesting move for the Ravens. I have no idea how much he is going to get paid,
Mhm.
but I think he can still play. And he didn't do much for the Bills last year, so maybe a bit of a bargain. And I think he'd be, a solid veteran for the Ravens to get that's not a $35 million a year player. That's someone I threw out. I think Tyler Lockett being released is interesting. I could definitely see the Ravens signing him. Realistic options. I think we'd all welcome Demarcus Robinson back. I think that'd be a cool move. But, DK is obviously the one you'd want. If that means not getting Ronnie Stanley, I'd probably rather have Ronnie Stanley here. But,
Oof.
a lot of stuff going to it. You got any receivers on your mind?
I've got one circle just because it fits the veteran. It fits the little rumor swirling kind of guy that is somehow always attached to the Ravens. I think Devontae Adams is the name that you probably entertain as much as anyone. I think he has that clip of him in I forgot what show, some
Yeah.
podcast, maybe Kay Adams, I forgot, but they ask him about, oh, would you rather be the 800-yard receiver and win a championship with Lamar, or would you rather be the 1,500-yard guy with a Buccaneers, blah 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 mid-tier team?
Mhm.
And he was like, yeah, I'd take the championship. I'd play with Lamar. And
Yeah.
that was kind of the start of it. Then you get that stupid stuff in the middle of the season where he's tweeting Edgar Allan Poe, and it's like, maybe he's going to get traded here. And then it never happens. It might have just been trade bait. I don't know. He feels like the perfect fit. The definition of the X receiver, the definition of a dominating wide receiver. The only weird kind of backstory with him is that he tends to always be attached to Aaron Rodgers at the hip and are sometimes. So it would be almost a little shocking to see him go anywhere but those two. So I don't think Derek Carr is on any team anymore. He might be a free agent, but along with Aaron Rodgers being maybe released, maybe traded, I don't know what that whole situation is either. But just to monitor if those quarterbacks go to a good situation or a situation where Devontae does not seem entertained by it, like he should not have been the other two times. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a match made in heaven.
That would be pretty cool. I don't know. There's so many options out there in terms of wide receivers. And like you said, just, a few days ago, it looked a little bleak in terms of wide receivers, sort of all the moves that could be made next week. But what you said with DK, Christian Kirk, Devontae Adams, a lot of big moves are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you say, if you had to predict, where do you think DK and Adams would end up if you had to put money on it?
If I had to put money on it, I'm betting wherever Devontae or wherever Aaron Rodgers goes for Devontae. That's too easy. I think for DK, it's kind of complicated. There's a few teams that could suit him. Like even on paper, if you're an outside fan, you're probably like, oh, Ravens for DK. You'd consider it. You'd even consider like a Niners team if they're trying to dump some cap off and get different deals going, to make a push. And yet I still see, like, as Ravens fans, we see Bateman and Zay as capable wide receivers. We don't need to make a big splash. So it goes back almost to what you say about Amari Cooper. If there's veterans available later on for a position that we need to address, I think there's going to be plenty. And I think someone like D-Hop, Hollywood could be there, pull a Chiefs kind of move like we talked about in the wide receiver preview, where the wide receiver market will be there because we're going to have plenty of wide receiver talent no matter what. It's just, can we find one that wants to play with Amar, wants to play for cheap? And I mean, even if it's Amari's not terribly old, right? Like
I don't think so.
Lower 30s. He could be a 2-year deal kind of guy because
he's 30.
Yeah, Bateman's on a similar, like 2 years left or 3 years left.
I had 2.
Why not entertain that? So if they find a good fit, even a DeMarcus Robinson, we talk about wanting him back, but a DeMarcus Robinson could end up being paid more than a random seasoned veteran by the end of free agency, just because I feel like a little more traction is with DeMarcus Robinson to be signed than a few others.
Yeah, you never know. And Amari Cooper could be signed on Tuesday, and he could be signed. He could be signed in June. Like, you have no idea. But that seems like an interesting Ravens type signing to me. Probably a little better than what they normally would go for, but still, it's not like a crazy thing. Also, what's up, Dawson, and what's up, Prime Trust? Appreciate you guys for being here. But yeah, also in terms of wide receivers, Devin Duvernay was released today. Obviously, don't want to talk about him for 20 minutes, but the Ravens never figured out returner last year. They just could not find anyone. I think that'd be an interesting guy to bring back. Obviously, a solid wide receiver 4 type of guy. He can play 3. He can even play 2 if he has to. So I think that's. I'd almost be kind of surprised if the Ravens don't bring Duvernay back.
You're right. I totally agree. That's well said. Like, I would be surprised if a team swooped in and offered him more money. I don't think it's a deal with money, but I think the home body of Baltimore to someone like that in a dire situation in what we have, why not? I mean, he's still it's not like he was playing bad ball or anything last year. He's an all-pro with us. And I mean, that's really all the selling point you need. You're not going to be telling him he's going to be wide receiver 3, like you mentioned, but in different situations all year, he's going to be. And a spot to probably get more reps on the field. So I love that decision. I would love a quick signing for Duvernay coming here. I think there's a few guys right now being released. They're somehow making agreements beforehand.
Yeah.
That would not actually be ridiculous to like see something like that happen
It's
over the
so
weekend, I
funny
think.
because it's like, okay, so free agency really starts on Wednesday, next Wednesday.
Yeah,
But the
technically.
legal tampering period is on Monday. But it's interesting that 5 minutes after the legal tampering period starts, players are getting signed
Yeah,
to big
immediately
deals.
off rip.
So, it's a little
It's fishy.
interesting.
It's fishy.
That's all
But
I'll say on that.
it's NFL. Really, it's big league free agency at its finest. You want
Yeah.
the clock to strike 12, and then all of a sudden, signing. So
Yeah.
it's fun to do that. I love the last few years. I remember like either waking up or maybe randomly being somewhere and then looking on my phone. There's like 3 or 4 notifications, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
random guard signed somewhere. Oh, random wide receiver signed somewhere. Oh, what? Edge rusher goes here. It was just so many dominoes fall in one day that shaped the league. That's insane. I love that crap.
I remember, sorry, real quick. I just remember waking
Yeah.
up to a Kevin Zeitler. That was one of those
Oh,
that you wake up to.
yes, that's it. That's the one. Yes, that's the one I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. A different topic that we just have to talk about because it can free up so much cap is Mark Andrews, I think. Like, we have been in all these previews talking about our sides. I'm definitely for keeping him. I think you and Dawson are both on the train towards letting him go. I think it frees up around 11 million in cap. The only issue is it's Lamar's favorite target. It's what makes your 2 tight end sets elite level instead of normal NFL good tight end, 1 backup tight end. It's 2 starting caliber tight ends. I'm uncomfortable. I would be uncomfortable getting rid of him. I would start to feel a little nervous if, like, over this weekend he gets shipped off and we go after some higher caliber wide receiver instead. I'm not going to be all pumped up, confident. I'm going to be sitting there like, okay, I have to see it to believe it, because another new look for the offense would kind of, not saying Lamar can't get it done, but it would worry me.
Yeah. The Mark Andrews situation is interesting. I know you, Dawson, and I have texted about it a lot, sort of our thoughts and opinions on that situation. First I'll say, if the Ravens do move off of him, then Lamar was okay with it. EDC talked about in a recent interview how Lamar has almost become an extension of the front office, and he's way more involved than he used to be. I know Zrebeck also was talking about that on Twitter. So basically, any move they make nowadays, Lamar is at least okay with it. So that's the first thing. Number 2, I think you look at what the Eagles do, and I know a lot of teams are trying to compare themselves to the Eagles, but like, the Eagles do not care what you have done for them, what you're going to do for them, what you've done for other teams. Like, it doesn't matter. And if, like, I know what I think, but like, if the Ravens front office thinks that, moving on from Mark Andrews plus $11 million makes the team better, then like they need to do that, and they can't hold back from it. But if they think they're a better team with Mark Andrews, then I'm fine with them keeping him. It's what do they think is best? Personally, I think moving off from him is the correct decision. I'm trying not to like base everything off the Bills game, because that's sort of our last memory of him. But like, listen, I love Mark Andrews. Like, all the way back to his touchdown on December 23rd, Lamar's rookie year against the Chargers. Like, he's had some crazy moments for the Ravens. I just think, I've been bullish on Isaiah Likely since the start. I probably was overrating him a little bit 2 years ago, but I think I ended up being right, which is kind of funny. I think you have him sitting right there. I think he can be an 800, 900-yard guy as a number one tight end. Charlie Kolar is not some slouch of a tight end. And listen, I think the Ravens can easily, like, day 3 tight end can easily come in here, be the tight end 3.
Yeah.
I just think, like, when you look at the Ravens' playoff woes and whatever, like, something needs to change, right? And, Harbaugh has one more year on his contract. I think another one of those things you could change. Just, like, at this point, you just got to, like, for lack of a better term, just, like, mess around and see what works. Like, maybe you need to move on from the guy who's, like, really, really struggled in every playoff game of his career. That's just sort of how I feel about it. I could kind of talk about the situation for a while. I see both sides. I'm not saying, like, oh, they need to get rid of Andrews, but if I was, like, Eric DeCosta, I think I would trade him, to the Commanders or maybe the Chargers. Chargers could definitely use him, and I think he could be a great player for, like, the Chargers or the Broncos or something like that too. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that whole situation really being in conversation as much as it is for Ravens fans is a little almost upsetting for me. It makes me just kind of sad because, what we have going on with the rest of the team and Tucker and Cleveland and Steve Smith and whatever else. The whole team needs a win for some kind of reason, whether it's striking big in free agency or striking big in a trade. A different way they could win is with Ronnie Stanley, getting an extension done with him. I think that's kind of approaching unsettling territory. I don't like how close we're getting. I saw something, I don't know how much legitimacy there is to it. I saw the Chiefs would be interested in targeting a guy like Ronnie Stanley, given all their moves at O-line right now. I think they traded their all-pro to the Bears. He's gone. Still, Ronnie, that has to get done, right? I think a few pages have even tweeted out he wants to come back. That's just, from their mouths. I haven't seen Ronnie come out and say it, but I am uncomfortable, I would say, with 3 days until the big day is here. That would feel like free agency starts. Oh, Patriots offer him 3 years for a ridiculous number, and we lose him. This is what it's starting to feel like.
Yeah, 3 days to get it done. I think, I was talking to my dad about this just a few hours ago. I think he's gone if he's a free agent on Monday. Like,
oh, I think so too. I think you have to extend him or else it's over.
And part of me, I wonder if, like, it's done and they're waiting as long as possible to announce it just to mess up other teams' plans, or if they actually don't have anything done yet. Would you say that's the number one priority? Like, would you rather have Ronnie? I mean, I know I said this already, but, like, would you rather have Ronnie Stanley or DK Metcalf?
I think,
in terms of, like, excitement for the day, like,
I hope it's what you're saying. I hope it's a business decision where they are waiting as long as possible. I'm worried it's not, and I'm worried that also means that we might be. The Ravens wouldn't do this, but overpay for a position like that because he's a long tenured guy and he's given up money in the past and he's Lamar's blindside guy. Are they willing to give the extra 2 or 3 because a team is about to barge in on Monday and say, here's a blank check, buddy? So I'm looking at it in 2 different ways. I'm really hoping that a deal is done really this weekend, I guess. I mean, I don't think it just snap your fingers and it's going to pop up on our feed, but just this last week has completely proven otherwise. I feel like we did all these previews and it was like, oh yeah, wide receiver market looks good. And then it keeps like bomb, bomb, bomb. So we could still be in for an extension notification here really any time. It's just also the way the NFL works with, announcements and everything. So I don't know. I want him back. That is priority one, though. I think so.
Yeah, it's we've talked about. I guess we can just talk about O-line as a whole right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said. I feel like I'm just repeating myself over and over and over again. But like, go get an elite offensive line. Like, talk about trying new things every playoff run. Like, they haven't done this since 2019. They haven't tried it. They have not even tried to have an elite O-line since 2019. Last year, they were so lucky that Rodgers Rosengarten ended up being a good player, because they would have been in trouble if he wasn't. And you look at it this year, and they're still probably in better shape than they were last year.
Yeah.
You look at, hopefully, Ronnie Stanley returning. So you got like the bookend tackles with Rosengarten and Stanley. You got Linderbaum at center. I think you also need to add a guard, and then let Voorhees, Falele, and the day 3 pick battle for the other guard position.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is an elite top 5 offensive line right there. Whether that guard you add is Kevin Zeitler, maybe even a cheaper free agent than Kevin Zeitler, or a round 1 or 2 pick. I think that's what I would do. I would really prioritize that over edge, over corner, over safety. I think that's the most important thing.
And I'm reading here, Kevin Zeitler's market projection is around $9 million.
Yeah.
$9 million seems like the right number, but is it okay that we're going for the right number and an older guy? He's 34 years old, or could we put even a few more towards a younger guy that could be here for a few more years? If Zeitler's looking at 34 seems a little older for an O-lineman, especially a guard. I think there's been plenty in the NFL in the past, especially with a guy that plays this well. But we need to make sure, even if it's a Tevin Jenkins or a Becton guy that wants to come here and play for a few years where we get a longer term deal done, think about the benefits of having that number for a few more years instead of a guard for one that we know is good. It's a good Band-Aid. It's just, is the team thinking long term? Is it thinking, let's go get Ronnie's deal done so we have him for the next 3 years, don't have to worry about tackles? Is it, hey, let's pay a lot more to a guard that can be here for a long time? Or do we need to look in a different direction to save money and use it towards defensive reasons? It's all over the place for really the first time in a long time. I feel like we always kind of talk about, oh yeah, defensive line. Oh yeah, DBs. We did talk about that, but we weren't banging the drum to get it. This is the first group that we're like, address it. It's you need to get a solidified guy or two by the end of this offseason.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk about like the cap being tight and all that. We have a comment here from Noah talking about possible Lamar Roquan restructure. I think DaCosta said he's going to go down to Florida, spend some time with Lamar. A Lamar extension can free up, $20-25 million for this season. I think that'd be what you really want to do. I think they are trying to avoid restructures, but like I said, one restructure, and listen, a trade of Mark Andrews along with a Roquan restructure frees up a ton of money. And where you could get Stanley and like a top pass rusher or something like that. To answer your question about O-line, another guy I was thinking about is James Daniels from the Steelers. Sort of a younger guard, probably would be similar to Zeitler in terms of price, maybe cheaper. I think he had a really good September, if I believe, and had a season-ending injury. So I don't know. I don't see them signing 2 offensive linemen before the draft. 2 big offensive linemen before the draft, but I would personally do that. I don't know. I like what you said about Becton. Like, listen, I think you got to free up some cap space. I think that
might have been done. I'm sorry to interrupt you. That might have been done already, or is in the process of it being done, because that's not really a move that always comes out beforehand in case you see a big deal is agreed to before Wednesday. it could also be because we've moved cap room around. Usually that happens with a few of the guys on Twitter. They're like, oh, yeah, the Ravens must have moved some cap around because it doesn't make sense how they made that deal. I love kind of figuring that out later on.
Yeah, and then 2 days later, it'll be like, the Ravens have restructured Marlon Humphrey's contract.
Yeah, announced on Twitter, yeah.
But yeah, what I would do is, like, you gotta free up some space. I mean, obviously, you can't extend Lamar if he doesn't want to do it, but, like, a Lamar extension, like, that literally can free up, like, that can give you, like, $25 million
Wow.
of money this year. Obviously, the trading Andrews frees up 11. Like, you could realistically, like, you could sign Stanley and, like, a Zeitler and, patch holes at edge and safety and go into the draft and be able to draft BPA, without even having to address O-line at all.
Yeah.
You could go into the draft like a defensive BPA for your first 3 picks.
Yeah.
If you address O-line correctly, which, I think that's a good way to approach it.
And, like, speaking of defensive, like, BPA, best player available.
Yeah.
Corner, safety, edge is something that we've talked about, and it's kind of a head scratcher because we're used to it being the best player available or finding like a really cheap veteran, whether that be Eddie Jackson or Trey White, and they somehow work out or they somehow don't. That's the exact, spectrum right there. Eddie Jackson not really working out. Trey White doing his job well enough to where he can be a corner 3 or 4 for us because of injuries. But if you have Wiggins, Marlon, and Mollett coming back along with Hamilton, Jalen Armour Davis, TJ Tampa.
Yeah.
It's not a dire need. I think it's almost a thing where the embarrassment of riches of having Lamar and having a successful organization come into play, where you get maybe to Thursday or Friday in free agency and you see a few guys wanting to come for visits because they see, there's 3 successful organizations that they want to go to. They want to see which one they would rather go to and also take a sizable pay cut and try and win the championship for. Like, it's not the same situation, but like Calais Campbell, when he was going to get cut earlier this year. Earlier this year. Last year.
Earlier this past season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Calais could decide wherever he wanted to go. He probably didn't need much leeway. He might have chosen the Ravens right there on the spot. But there's going to be a ton of those later career veterans. It's not ridiculous to even point at someone like Matt Judon for a reunion. Like, he was successful with the Ravens. He leaves. He's still successful, but can he come here on a deal that's comfortable? Does he want a lot of money? Is there a team willing to give him a lot of money? And I want to address edge because I feel like that's so important. Us as a podcast have been banging that drum for a while, and it's almost always worked out. Whether we like it or not, we want the star guy. We want the game breaker. But if you're going to be top 3 in sacks for the last couple of years, the Ravens kind of know what to do. It's really the system that has made it so productive and efficient that you don't need to go sell out for a Micah Parsons unless you just want to, unless there's a big deal or a cheap deal to get someone like that. So they can keep going after the veteran guys. I see that as the route, as an edge. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I like what you said about they always figure it out. Like, it's different than O-line, where the past couple of years, patchwork O-line, and then it's bad, right? Edge has always sort of been fine, no matter what they do. I don't know, the OA stuff. We were talking about that. I would assume he'll be back. I think he's either going to be back or he'll be traded in a trade that
gets a star,
is at least even or helps out the Ravens a little bit.
And for anyone that doesn't know, OA tweeted out some like peace sign, I think it was, for the first
tweeted for like 4 years or something like that.
So that was confusing, especially with all the rumors of edge rushers right now too. I don't know if you were done with the edge conversation, but I think
I have a little more.
Okay, go for it.
Joey Bosa.
Yeah.
I just the week 2 injury is just right staring you in the face.
Let's do a Joey dirty, man.
Um,
But isn't it so intriguing to think that you could go get a all-pro level edge rusher, hopefully on a lesser deal because he's been so injured, and hopefully it does work out? That's
yeah,
possible. That's definitely possible,
yeah,
especially for the team that we have created and orchestrated right now. If a Khalil Mack or a Joey Bosa is like, his agent's like, hey, if we were to entertain a deal,
mhm.
would the Ravens consider it? Would it be something in their like kind of their pocket? Because I'm sure there's a few guys like that. I'm not sure in the like secondary department there is. I feel like it's getting crowded. Ardarius not being signed is also another one of those
Yeah,
weird situations. They're gonna put a tender on him, I
yeah.
assume. It's just which one. And I'm sure they would rather keep the 2 million that they can. It's just, do you chance letting a team go by and swoop him
Mhm.
up because he's talented enough, or do you want it definitely locked in with that second round tender?
Yeah, Ardarius Washington is interesting. Um, I would probably put the second round tender on him and try to get an extension done. Ravens have a lot of extensions to get done.
Yeah,
They got
they do.
Ardarius Washington, Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum. This is the issue when you have an amazing draft.
Yeah.
I would think Isaiah Likely probably wants to wait another year. Well,
Oof, yeah, he
he's
does.
got one more year. He's got one more year
It's just one?
because, yeah, he wasn't a first round pick.
Wow.
22, 23, 24.
Well, he's gonna wait as long as he can. If this year is as dominant
Like, if Andrews ends up
without
getting
Andrews,
traded,
exactly.
Likely is
He won't
not signing an extension.
unless it's like some EDC masterclass where he somehow, it's like the Bateman one. Bateman's
Yeah,
production has gone up, but he got a deal done before, so it's way under market now.
yeah, yeah. You got to extend Ardarius Washington. Like Linderbaum and Hamilton, I think extensions could happen this offseason.
Yeah, I think so too.
Is it I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like if the Ravens don't do anything in terms of Lamar extension or restructure, like they got one splash move in the bag, and it's going to be Ronnie Stanley, and like everything else will just be
It's gonna
filling
be
in the
quiet.
holes. Yeah, exactly.
Quiet all season.
And like I mean, last year all they did was Derrick Henry. That's all. That's the only guy they signed. That was like very notable, and they had a great season. Getting 2 impact guys with your first 2 draft picks definitely helps in Wiggins and Rosengarten.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They got a lot of moves to make. I wanted to talk about corner a little bit because I was listening to Mel Kiper today.
Oh.
And he was breaking down the corners. And you got in terms of draft, by the way, not free agency.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's so many corners just jumbled in mid to late first round where it's like they might go corner 2 years in a row just because there's so many guys there. Jahdae Barn from Texas had a really good combine. Siobhan Revel out of ECU. Benjamin Morrison, I believe, Notre Dame. I think Maxwell Hairston, Kentucky. There's so many corners that are going to go late first. Like that might be the pick for the Ravens. Like maybe they look at that saying, we're going to take a corner in the first round again, or at least we think we will, and you can sort of fill in everything else. Then you look at Darius Slay.
Yeah.
I think that could be good. Maybe like a 1-year deal for Slay could be very intriguing. But man, I want Hamilton to be back in the box so badly.
It'd be fun.
Adding another corner probably I mean, he can still play wherever, but if you don't have another safety, unless they have a ton of confidence in Bo Braid or Sanusi Kane.
Yeah. Do you have any idea if there's 1 or 2 more years on Marlon's contract off the head?
It's at least more than 1 for sure.
Okay. Because I'm thinking if Wiggins you're going to hopefully have for a long time, you have a, no disrespect, aging Marlon Humphrey, aging Millette. It's not ridiculous to look at another
Yeah.
early pick for a corner. I mean, we're looking at like this big board here I have that we got. I don't remember where, but
It's a consensus rankings.
that like 25 through 60 range, there's like
Yeah.
6, 7 guys.
There's
And
so many corners.
that doesn't feel like it's a lot, but it feels like that's around, range of where the Ravens are going to be picking. So if they like a guy, I think they definitely pull the trigger on that department, especially if you can go with, let's say Darius Slay gets scooped up by a contender and gets a lot more money. I'm sure that's someone that they're considering right now.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like one of those players that going into the offseason, the Ravens would target. Usually that kind of happens. Like we were asking for Derrick Henry, but we weren't like sure it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It feels like another guy like that. Since Slay has had connection to the Ravens in the past with trade/signing stuff, I think that you could consider him as a strong candidate because of his history with the team. I think that the draft also, it's so intriguing that you almost feel this position out, because if you can get a good looking deal for a good veteran to pair with all the guys, so be it. That's perfect. But I think they would rather look at the draft because you have a few young guys, and including Millette coming back from, all of his troubles. You have a few guys that could be the 3 or 4. So why not give them an opportunity along with a later pick, maybe an earlier pick?
Yeah, I was going to say they maybe could make it work signing Stanley and Slay. I don't know how much Slay is going to – it's so hard to like –
Do you think that could be another deal where like Henry's was so off balance with year 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Could that be another thing where it's a cap manipulation thing and you hopefully save a lot?
They did this with
next year.
like the Ravens are still paying Odell right now. Because they really spread out that contract. They could do that with Slay.
Yeah, they know how to do it. It's just if Slay also is up for that kind of thing.
Yeah, just add a couple void years on it, or maybe they get a 2-year deal done. Who knows? There's like Asante Samuel out there.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. He wouldn't be too crazy.
But it just goes back to money, right?
Yeah, and there's also the thing about if Jim Harbaugh doesn't want him, does John Harbaugh want him? Like that's sort of how I feel about like Bosa and Mac.
No chance.
It's like if Jim Harbaugh doesn't want him anymore, I'm not sure if John Harbaugh, you know what I mean? Like
it might not all be up to Jim though, too.
Exactly, but
be asking for him, but
yeah.
But I totally get what you're saying. That if no Chargers former players are sided, I would not be crazy to side with you on that.
Yeah, I think Rasul Douglas is another interesting name.
Ooh, I'm not a fan, but it's a veteran guy. I mean, that would
solid corner for the Bills. He would not be super expensive. Ronald Darby is free agent. Listen, Ronald Darby, I don't know if you remember the Texans divisional game in 2023. I think they went 3 and out on their first possession. He had like a PBU on 3rd and 5. They went right at him on a hitch, and like the crowd went crazy. He played well in that game. He played well down the stretch last year. I'm looking at other corners right now. Rockison.
They gotta be feeling so confident though with Wiggins and Marlon as your 1 and 2. You don't have to address it. Like they always seem to like Marlon always seems to miss a game up to like 6 in a season. Yeah. So are you comfortable with Wiggins being your guy alongside Millette, alongside Jalen Armour-Davis or TJ Tampa? You can't be. There's no way.
Yeah, I think they have like a decent amount of confidence in TJ Tampa.
I hope so.
I'll pose a question to you. If you could choose the Ravens, let's just say this makes the question a little more boring. So never mind. Okay, let's say splash move and then secondary, a little bit of a lower move. like a Zeitler type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's your like splash move position and your B move position you'd want the Ravens to address before the draft?
So
If you could
splash,
choose, if you could choose the two positions that they make a move at.
you have to include O-line in there. I think that's number one. I think we both agree with that.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick another one, there's just I feel too uncomfortable with the wide receiver situation, at least with the playoffs and Zay being out. It's the definition of, hey, you don't have 3 caliber guys to lead you in the playoffs. No disrespect to any of them. You don't have 3 guys that can be that caliber. So I think a splash move would probably lean closer towards wide receiver, given DaCosta's kind of past with also being interested in that position. He's been so keen in on getting the 3. If he's willing to do the like bag of chips for Deontay Johnson trade and somehow find that trade, I mean, there's got to be another team out there that would have done it. If he's not willing to do that, Christian Kirk gets traded today for a 7th round. I know his contract's crazy, but if you're willing to do the Deontay thing, you're not willing to do a Christian Kirk type thing, there's definitely a niche that is in the market that he wants. Then it goes back to a DK Metcalf, right? It's the perfect fit as an X guy. It's the perfect fit as a go and get it guy because there's no one on the team close to that. There's different combinations that they could go, but I think that they would rather do the death by depth in wide receiver rather than secondary because they're so confident in their guys. Even given all the injuries, Hamilton always has that like random stinger every other game now.
Yeah.
And we got used to it with Patrick Queen, but like Hamilton, he's the new guy for it. So you're not like thinking that he's going to be gone for a long time. You feel confident in that and your ability to draft in the secondary. So I think they will do something with wide receiver and hopefully O-line. I feel honestly more confident that they will do something for wide receiver more than any other position. I think they're going to address it in some way. I just don't know if they're willing to go to the top to do it. I just hit my mic. Sorry. I don't know if you heard it. If they're willing to go to the top to do it, or if they're going to not settle, but go towards an upgrade at wide receiver 3 instead of hoping it's a Nelson Aguilar type of thing and getting away with it.
Yeah, I could definitely see him addressing wide receiver. So if it was up to you, you'd go Ronnie Stanley and then the wide receiver 3?
Yeah. And I think it could be a not a sizable deal, but a little more impressive deal than we think because you want a guy that can hopefully be there. If Bateman's deal only has 2 years.
2 years left on Bateman.
3 matches up with Zay, I believe.
Yeah, so 3 more for Zay.
You're seeing I see it as a contract kind of like year after year where you're kind of planning, oh, these guys hit free agency same time.
Mm-hmm.
I see it as you address that and get a deal with a guy in his prime, really, at the position and hope that he can be a cornerstone with Bate and Zay for a few more years while we have Zay at a cheaper deal too.
Yeah, listen, in terms of the future, like if Bateman has a great year next year, again, like let's say instead of I think he finished with about 700 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's say he finishes with 900 next year. Like they're gonna, I hope honestly that like Bateman and Zay are the receivers here for 5+ years to come, and they kind of have to pay both of them. Maybe and people are gonna think I'm crazy when I'm saying this, but like maybe Bateman's next contract is gonna be $20 million a year, and then Zay's second contract is gonna be 3 years from now.
Yeah,
Zay might be making $35 million a year.
Wow.
But listen, it'll be a lot less percentage of the cap than what you think it is right now.
Yeah.
So, I'd love for those Bateman and Flowers to be here in their early 30s, playing with Lamar. But yeah, I'd love a wide receiver signing. I think if it were up to me, and I've sort of been on this train a little bit, I want them to add a safety. Like, on top of our Darius. I would love, my fevered pipe dream is Justin Reed. It's probably not going to happen unless they can't retain Ronnie Stanley.
Yeah, it's chaos.
because if anyone doesn't know, the Ravens sort of stole the Chiefs DB coach. So Justin Reed's position coach is now in Baltimore. I don't know if Justin Reed wants to keep playing for a contender or if he's good with the 2 rings he got and wants to go get $20 million a year from the Panthers. So, but like, listen, I think they should.
The Panthers.
Okay, so the Ravens could not draft receivers forever. Since you and I were born, they couldn't do it. But then they tried with Hollywood, Bateman, Flowers. Like, they kept throwing darts at it, right?
Yeah, you'll hit the board up sometime, yeah.
People are criticizing EDC and the Ravens. They're saying, I'm seeing this on Twitter and stuff. Everyone's saying just, stop signing safeties, right? Like Earl Thomas.
Yeah.
Marcus Williams. And then even back in the day, what was his name? I can't remember his name. But they've signed multiple safeties where it didn't work out, right?
Yeah.
I think just like, Eddie Jackson, of course. Just like keep trying. Like Justin Simmons is an interesting guy. And I'm like, okay, you don't need to sign some. I think Jeremy Chin could be interesting. I know you like Justin Simmons a lot. Trevon Morig is out there, probably a little more expensive. Andre Sisco. Like signing one of these guys.
You guys were really against it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but another guy that fits that bill, that what you just said, even though you're not going to agree with me, is Tyrann Mathieu. That's another guy that fits that bill. I know you guys don't like him, but it's another guy that
47.
But even if he's a 3, it's okay. It's okay for the one game that Hamilton's missing because of a stinger, It's okay.
I want to sign a safety that's on the field the whole game, so Hamilton can play in the box.
Yeah,
like I want it to be like, Justin Simmons and Darius Washington playing with Hamilton in the box.
Wow.
Or of course you sign Darius Slay, and maybe the Ravens maybe moving Hamilton back there was an eye opener for them, and they want to keep him back there. Who knows? Yeah. We don't know what they're thinking, and they sign a corner. I just love the ability of Zach Orr, the Mike McDonald of the past, to use these DBs and safeties in all sorts of ways. And Jeremy Chin on the Panthers was he was thought of as the next best, maybe best safety in the league, up and coming. I don't really know what happened. He was in Carolina for 4 years. This was his first year on the Commanders. I think he played pretty well. He just hasn't been elite maybe the past couple of years.
Right.
But that'd be one of those, fill in the hole signings before the draft. I don't think Jeremy Chin would be too expensive. But yeah, man, go extend Lamar Jackson, sign Ronnie Stanley and Justin Reed, man.
Yeah, dude. That's the dream, I guess. Just everyone just keeps getting extended and all this money.
I'm going to get everyone way too hyped up for absolutely no reason right now. Imagine tomorrow morning we wake up, Ronnie Stanley is extended.
Okay. Great start to the day.
Sunday afternoon. New Lamar contract, highest paid quarterback. Ravens free up $28 million in cap space. Monday morning. Oh, shoot. Not Monday morning. Monday afternoon. Ravens signed Justin Reed.
Oh.
Yeah, Monday afternoon, Ravens signed Justin Reed.
We still got money to play with.
Exactly. But like I said, you can't extend Lamar if he doesn't want to do it.
No.
So, yeah, that would be
that
would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Dream scenario. This is so off topic, but the offensive line conversation we had where you pay one guy, hopefully, and you get, one of the day 3 guys and Voorhees and Falele to fight for that next spot. That is the perfect Ravens, strategy. That seems like that's what's going to happen. That's the most sure thing that we've probably said yet. The only other thing is this is with a Ronnie Stanley on the team, and it would be pretty like a catastrophic kind of feeling that tends to happen every once in a while with the Ravens for Ronnie to leave to a Chiefs and us to be in catastrophe.
Can the Chiefs stop taking our offensive linemen?
It just keeps making me go back to that because there's we talked about it, the splash signing.
Yeah.
The splash signing is Ronnie. Like, we haven't considered any other thing besides him. And that's because we're so hopeful and honestly, we're confident that a deal is going to be done, but it's looking less and less likely as time goes on just because, there's 3 days until it. The only positive that I've honestly had is when you said that, oh, Ronnie and EDC might just be waiting. They're going to freaking evil drop a little. Oh, extension done Sunday night. Like, oh yeah, we did it. Yep.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it was done on Wednesday.
Totally different plan. Yeah. Because that also seems like an incredible business move. But are they that willing to mess up the market, or is it going to be a little more chaos? I don't know.
And also the plan B we were talking about, Alaric Jackson was extended by the Rams.
Gone.
So
all the trade candidates we said, Thuney
so now it's like
Jonah Jackson gone. Like,
if it's not Ronnie,
who is it? I don't know. I'm going to be really honest. I'm so sorry. I don't know who Dan Moore Jr. is. I know Cam Robinson. Like, I'm just looking at this
solid.
list.
He's not Ronnie Stanley.
Where was he at last year? Do you know?
Was he on the Steelers?
Was he? $12 million. He's a 26-year-old tackle.
Yeah, I think he was on the Steelers.
Someone's gonna pay for him.
There's no one.
We could be in a scary situation where I think at the very beginning of all the previews we talked about offensive line would be the automatic first pick because we're that screwed at the position. I'm worried it's going to get to that. Because there
might not be a tackle at 27.
You're right. And we're not going to have a Patrick McCarry to bail us out and be like, hey, you can play tackle for a little bit while we figure this out. Or you play guard for us.
It's going to be Rosen.
You're right. And we're going to lose a different, aspect of the game. I'm getting nervous with offensive line because that's something that just as our podcast we've wanted. And as of right now, I know free agency hasn't even started yet, but as of right now, the only thing that we've been asking for the last month and a half has not happened. So, I mean, how can we be confident about addressing it? I don't know.
You got Cole Jackson on Twitter, a guy I trust, saying he has sources. He's saying he's still confident it's going to get done. So I'm just putting my faith in Cole Jackson's sources right now. But yeah, because you look at it and like, okay, if there's no Ronnie, left tackle Rosengarten, left guard Voorhees, center Linderbaum, right guard Lele, right tackle, second round pick. So that would not be ideal at all. We're looking for, I remember Dawson saying in our O-line preview video, Dawson was saying, go get Ronnie, sign Zeitler, and then draft Tyler Booker in the first round. That's what Dawson wants us to do.
He wants the trenches fixed.
Which, honestly, if they did that, I would not be mad.
I'd be pretty happy.
The defense would definitely take a hit. Maybe Tez Walker's wide receiver 3, but
no,
that would tell me that they're all in on protecting Lamar and trying to have the best offensive line in the NFL. So I don't know, man.
Prime says, go ahead. All right, Prime says he believes Ronnie will be back. Can't imagine him not in Baltimore.
Yeah,
that's what we're thinking.
I agree. He wants to stay. We all know he wants to stay.
Yeah,
I think your most probable offensive line going into next year is the same exact one it was last season, which is not bad. And Roger Rosengarten's probably going to be a lot better than he was last year. So, and I think Voorhees could be better. That's what I'm saying. If they extend Ronnie and don't do anything else, it'd still probably be a slightly better O-line than it was last year just because of offseason improvements. But I want it to be, a top 10 offensive line, top 5 offensive line. And I think you do too. And I know Dawson does.
especially to think that keeping Lamar out, safe is important. But
Yeah.
when you talk about Derrick Henry and his, I know he had just one of the most productive years of his career, but he's aging, right? He's
Yeah.
it's one injury away from really any of the O linemen now, or to a Derrick Henry to really shake up this team, and it feels like they're gonna address everything. We're not sitting here like uncomfortable, like, oh man, our team never gets it right. Like they tend to end up in the most productive way. We're just trying to brainstorm really every aspect of it. If you had to say right now, really to end this, because we're approaching an hour here, if you like had the three guys that are if you have a draft guy in mind, you can say it, but free agency can include guys that we also had on the team last year that we can re-sign. What are three guys just point blank that you want to see back, or on this team in general, because of a final hurrah for predictions in free agency?
Ronnie Stanley.
Mm-hmm.
Does Darius Washington count? I guess. I mean,
you could say like as an extension, maybe. I mean, I think a tender is going to happen, but
okay, three moves I want to see made.
He can be an honorable mention. Yeah.
Okay, Ronnie Stanley. Okay, honorable mention. Darius Washington returns, which is probably gonna happen. Ronnie Stanley. If I want Ronnie Stanley, I can't say Josh Sweat or Micah Parsons. Ronnie Stanley. Asante Samuel. And then in the first round, you go get Tyler Booker. Guard from Alabama.
Yeah. I'm glad you threw a draft guy in there, because I didn't think I was going to name anyone from that.
Yeah.
If I had three, I think honorable mention goes to one of probably Nelson Aguilar or Devin Duvernay. That's a funny honorable mention, because I think it could easily happen. But I'd rather see Duve, definitely. But I think Ronnie is probably bottom of the totem pole, just given I think we're all confident. It's just a nervous kind of feeling before free agency is going to hit. I think you have to include the more you talked about it with safety. This happened last time too.
I wanted safety so bad. And I know I just said Asante Samuel. But
I completely forget about it, really, because the aspect of having another safety and letting Hamilton play down, it's a whole different like box opening, a different present opened on defense to see so much more movement on the field.
He can make so much more of an impact when he's down there.
I mean, I'm hoping for really any kind of guy. I think the main name, I was kind of giddy about it whenever you mentioned him. Justin Simmons is a great guy. I think whether it's a Tyrann Mathieu or a Harrison Smith is also a name that'd be kind of funny to see. But if someone like that's willing to take less money and hunt for a championship, it's definitely possible. And I think that kind of wraps it up for me. I need a wide receiver. I need a wide receiver pretty bad. I think they can make a move for someone like DK. That's definitely in cards. It's just a low chance.
Yeah.
I think that if that's not happening, I think you have to go after someone like Demarcus Robinson, D-Hop. I like your Amari Cooper take if he's, maybe later in free agency. You have to address wide receiver 3 pretty confidently, because if they're willing to do it with someone like Deontay, like I mentioned, then they're definitely going to be willing to do it via trade or via in free agency here Monday. So I hope it happens.
Real quick, where do you think Aaron Rodgers goes?
Oh, it seems. So I'm kind of confident that Fields might go back to the Steelers.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of an opportunity. I think Steelers would be in play. I think the Colts is in play because they keep getting these stupid veterans, even though they have AR.
Yeah.
A different AR. That's funny. I don't know. I'm not too confident, because if he doesn't have his favorite weapons, I love Aaron Rodgers, but if he doesn't have the perfect situation, then he seems a little upset. He could just up and retire. I genuinely don't know.
It's interesting because I know he still wants to play,
Mm-hmm.
but this is an interesting time in the NFL where like there's not many good rosters that don't have a quarterback. I feel
Yeah.
like that's been such a common thing recently. Like, you know, I can think of maybe the Seahawks, but like Geno Smith is probably at least pretty close to Aaron Rodgers,
Yeah.
in this point in their careers right now.
Definitely.
Like, there's not really a good team that needs a quarterback.
Yeah.
And
Specifically good team. Yeah.
so it's like Aaron Rodgers is either going to retire or he's going to go play for a bad team, which is like,
No
and like,
chance.
I think the Raiders, like, they just paid Max Crosby a ton of money. Maybe they draft T-Mac from Arizona. Like, if the Raiders sign Aaron Rodgers, they could maybe like be contending for the playoffs, I think, with Pete Carroll. But I think that's his sort of only option. Like, he could go to, if maybe Tennessee takes Travis Hunter or trades down, Tennessee's an option.
Yeah.
Like the Giants, if they don't get a quarterback, but like, why would you go there?
What?
So
New York to New York, that'd be funny.
are there any other like interesting players that the Ravens are definitely not going to get? Myles Garrett trade, probably not going to happen soon. That's probably going to happen in July when he's holding out. But
Maybe a draft closer to drafting too.
it's going to be the Eagles or the Commanders. The Eagles are going to get him.
Please no. No, that's not even funny. Don't even say that. Gosh.
Well, I mean, NFC is better than the AFC. So I saw a funny tweet, Lamar, when Trey Hendrickson and Myles Garrett are both leaving the AFC.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that. That's crazy.
Crazy. Man. Sorry to keep going on here, but can we just talk about the Bengals for a minute?
Yeah, I wanted to. I've always wanted to. It's just we're a Ravens podcast. I love talking about them because it's so freaking crazy what they do.
So, if anyone doesn't know, they franchise tagged T. Higgins, and now today they gave Trey Hendrickson, led the NFL in sacks, multiple great seasons in a row, gave Trey Hendrickson
second in defensive player of the year.
Yeah, the ability to seek for a trade. And they have a ton of cap space. They have so much money. And this is going to be a really niche thing here, but have you seen that video where the dog is holding on tight to that watermelon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, someone said the Bengals, when they realize they need to give a player a contract or something along those lines, which I thought was pretty funny. Mike Brown holding on to his cash, but
yeah, the flood in of Bengals winning, 8 games and it's 50-47 final score when their wins. Like, I know they think they probably can draft and whatever else. It's just
they haven't been able to draft.
I mean, you can draft offense as much as you want, but if it's only wide receivers and a quarterback, something's got to change.
Like, they cannot pay T. Higgins.
It could be one of those situations where he's now unhappy it's a second tag because maybe he was looking forward to going into free agency and he gets shipped off by, draft day.
Yeah.
That's possible. That's, that kind of tends to happen nowadays with at least high caliber wide receivers. So maybe they do that. But even then, if you've considered moving him off, then that also means, like, what happens to Trey Hendrickson? Is he also gone? You also have to pay Jamar. Like it's just a messy situation.
Because their defense is really bad.
Yep.
Sam Hubbard retired, who got a lot of flack last year, but like overall has been a good player for them.
Yeah.
So they're losing both their starting edge rushers,
who are star
probably.
caliber.
I mean, Hendrickson, obviously the best player on their defense. Sam Hubbard is up there. It was already a terrible unit.
I know. What do you do, man?
And like, I think Bengals fans agree with us. Like, I don't think we're even like being hateful.
Yeah,
right now.
They can't be confident now. If they're willing to ship off Hendrickson, are you just willing to play with your 3 offensive weapon toys? Your freaking Is that really what's gonna? It's not gonna win you a Super Bowl. It won't get you there. It's not. I mean, Burrow and those two are good enough to go on a run. It's just if you don't have literally anyone on defense, you had a gem of a player all of a sudden with Hendrickson, and now you are trying to ship him off, or at least
who do
letting
they have on defense?
No one crazy. I mean, I think in the
Geno Stone.
I was the only. I'll be real here. I was the only one in our group whenever we did the season preview that was like, they're not going to be good. Like,
do you remember?
This defense has only gotten worse. Their offense did not change. They're going to be worse. And we're like, oh no, they're so good. They're going to win. It's kind of, it might be what the Bengals front office is caught up in. Oh, the greatness of Burrow and the two wide receivers. We can always manage the running back. We can always manage getting an O-line that's, okay.
Yeah.
And we can manage because we have Hendrickson bailing us out of a few games. So where does the fix come in? I'm just, it's got to be bad times over there.
Yeah. So their other starting D end, along with Sam Hubbard. So Hendrickson, Hubbard are gone. Joseph Osai, their other D end, is a free agent.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Cam Sample, their fourth D end, is a free agent. Miles Murphy, I think their first round pick a few years ago, hasn't worked out. We'll see what. So, like, all of their edge rushers are gone. BJ Hill, their starting D tackle, is a free agent. Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson will still be there. Their secondary is remaining the same, but it was,
Oh, wow. It wasn't good. Yeah.
I was watching a Bengals podcast earlier during the season. You know what they were calling Geno Stone? They were calling Geno Stone Geno Pebbles.
Geno Pebbles. I remember that.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Because I mean, Geno Stone was a good player for the Ravens, but
he would. I'm gonna say no disrespect again. He was kind of chalked up to a little more system, and they're gonna do like their due diligence. Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah,
great comment here from Livingston here. Jermaine Pratt requested a trade last month. That's right.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about that.
Thanks, McCoy, for that. Yeah, they're cooked.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fun. They tried to make those splash moves last time, and it was like, oh wow, they might be building, a defense because there are a few young guys they signed.
Yeah,
a couple of capable guys. It's just if you're like the group is not a well-oiled machine, parts are going to start falling off. Like it's just how it is. So it doesn't seem like they have Lou Anarumo still, right?
No, he's gone.
Is he really?
I think they hired someone from Notre Dame.
Yes, that's right. I should have known that. But hopefully a new mind in there helps. That could also be,
The thing is, I think Anarumo is really good.
Oh, I don't. But I think that someone like
I think he's a great defensive mind. I think some of his personnel decisions were not good because he definitely played a role in.
That's probably what comes into the new Notre Dame guy. If he says, I don't necessarily need a Trey Hendrickson on my team to be great, then maybe the Bengals are like, okay, and decide they can ship off a defensive player of the year runner up. So I don't know.
Like,
I feel a lot better as a Ravens fan with Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson being in great conversations. I'll tell you that, man. Wow.
Like, looking at the Bengals' first-round picks, 2015, a tackle from Texas A&M that, like, I don't know who this person is, so that probably means it didn't turn out very well. 2016, William Jackson. 2017, John Ross. 2018, Billy Price. 2019, Jonah Williams.
Billy Price. Oh, wow.
Two in a row here. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, 20 and 21. But then 22, Dax Hill. Hasn't worked out. 23, Miles Murphy. Only 2 years. Hasn't worked out. Amarius Mims, I think, will end up being a solid tackle. But, like, if you don't hit in the first round, this is what happens. Ravens first-round picks. I mean, going back to 2020. Who did they draft in 2020? Why am I blanking? Queen.
Just go. I was about to say
Queen,
go backwards. If you need to.
Queen, Owe, Bateman. Who was 22? What is going on? They took who did they take? And then 23 Flowers. Who was 22? What is wrong with me?
I'm not good with stuff like that. I hate
Who
being wrong.
did they draft in 2022?
Kyle Lundy.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you,
Oh, my
Makai. Thank you. See that picking 14.
It's like
is
so
like
obvious
stupid.
that I forgot. Yeah.
It's like what?
Yeah, so you have like 2020 Queen, Pro Bowler, great linebacker for us.
Yeah.
Bateman and Owe in 21. Two good players. 22, Hamilton, Linderbaum.
Mhm.
2 All-Pros. 23 Flowers, 24 Wiggins. I think Wiggins is probably going to be an All-Pro corner at some point.
Wow. That's a bold take.
So like that compared to like draft, and this is Ravens. Some people Ravens fans get mad about how the Ravens hold on to all their picks, but like when you're drafting Pro Bowlers every single first round,
yeah, you have to. If you're hitting at the clip they are, you have to keep drafting.
Yeah,
because that's the best way to get and retain really the best players available. So, I mean, it's what works for him. You just got to do it again. Yeah. Is that all you got?
Nick Emenworry.
Our little Nick Emenworry. That was originally the like dream player, and then of course
he's gone too high now.
Yeah, come on, man. And now it's kind of flipped. I like that it's Starks now. I think that's funny. That was I think that was like if you go back to like the beginning of last season, I'm pretty sure he was a mock guy to the Ravens, which is kind of funny.
Mel Kiper mocked
full circle.
Emenworry right before the combine, and now it's
that's kind of dead.
I mean, there's still a chance. You never know. Some of these guys have a great combine. Rises, then in April it kind of goes back down,
and all the storylines with it too. Like everyone can fall and rise so quick. So yeah. That's all I got. Right, that's all you got.
Yeah, that's all I had. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. We appreciate all the support. We're going to continue to grind out this off season. Next week, I most likely will not be able to be here, but Zach and Dawson are going to hold down the fort. And then, from there, hopefully some big moves will happen, some fun episodes. And then April is going to be mock draft Mondays.
Oh,
April's going to be really fun. So stay tuned for all that. We're going to go live during the draft. We're going to go live for the schedule release and then figure out what to do all summer when nothing is going on. But like the video. If you're watching right now, we appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friends about the pod. If you have any Ravens fans that are friends that are Ravens fans. I'm not doing well right now with this outro.
I want to say whenever we shout out Spotify, I also want to say to rate us on Spotify, rate us 5 stars on there.
Yeah.
I love our Spotify group. That's gang. And I'm gonna say it because Brad usually is the one that says it. We're gonna get on Apple Podcasts.
Before April.
Draft time. Yeah,
before April. Before April.
By the draft, it's gonna be done. I don't know how many of you there are, but it's gonna happen. Don't worry about it.
But by the way, watching to us on YouTube is the most beneficial to us. So
yes.
But if you are in the car and want to listen to the show, Spotify, Apple Podcasts in April.
Dude.
We say it every single time.
Dude. We've given ourselves a date now. Now we have to do it.
We have set a deadline. And hopefully no, it will. We will.
Don't say hopefully. Yeah, what the heck? No, it's happening.
Next time you guys are watching us, it'll be a Micah Parsons trade reaction.
What? All right, this dude's freaking gone. We'll see you guys. I'll say goodbye. What the heck?